Hey, what's up, mafias? Welcome back to the commute. And in this podcast, I'm joined by Nikolay. He is a Ukrainian developer who has been working as a tech lead in Billease. So there's a lot to learn here. So there will be questions around AR to how to improve as an Android developer. So there's a lot to learn here, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. If you did, like, share, and subscribe. And for now, let's get started. I usually start off my podcast by asking this very simple question: how do you define stable life for yourself?
How do I define stable what?
Stable life for yourself.
Oh, stable life for myself. That's an interesting question. Do we mean like stable life, just my regular life, or what are we talking about?
I'm asking usually because with employees as such, we try to be, we actually have jobs because we value stability over
Hmm.
something else. And
Hmm.
as we try to escape this stability to get into freedom with the help of entrepreneurship, we tend to lose stability overall. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm asking. Like you are right now a tech lead somewhere,
Hmm.
and working. Working as an employee, it's much more stable as compared to running a company where 24/7 you are making constant decisions. So that's
Hmm.
what I'm talking about. How do you define stable life for yourself?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, actually, I've been working like for the 10 years of my career. I've been working 90%, 95% of the time I've been working as a contractor. So I kind of have my own like company, you could say that, and companies hire me as a contractor.
Mhm.
So I've only worked as an employee maybe like for a year in one company. Um, but yeah, I mean, stable life. Well, I mean, for me, I don't know if you're a contractor as well, but for me, it's like a relative concept, meaning I usually, basically make sure that I have enough finance, to keep me going for at least 6 months.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, of course, it's my goal. Ultimate goal is to sort of have be either employed like for by some interesting big company, and actually have a stable job, because I've never had one like where I could say, oh, it's a job security or whatever. For the most part, it was contracting jobs that could end at any point. So it's mostly for me about my own finances. So the more kind of you have under your, in your bank account, the calmer you are, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was asking. I usually ask this question to all of the people I invite on this podcast because I actually want to know what they're actually working for.
Hmm.
Because I actually like I've interviewed a founder, I've interviewed a DOE, director of engineer, and I've interviewed many employees, and they have very different definitions to how stable life works. Some are talking more about freedom, some are talking more about money. And
Hmm.
yeah, I usually ask this question just to know about the person. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like for your contract job, like you didn't get started with a simple, um, a stable job itself. You started off as a contractor. So how do you,
Hmm.
as a person, I think most of the employees are actually thinking to switch from normal jobs to somewhere in contract or maybe freelancing.
Hmm.
Why do you want to switch back to jobs as such?
Well, I mean, I only consider being an employee in some really interesting company that's interesting for me. So, other than that, I prefer to be a contractor for the purpose of having more freedom. Because being a contractor, it also allows you to quit the projects that you don't really like rather quickly, and I've done that quite a few times. Yeah, but as I've said, I've worked as an employee only when I was working as a tech lead in Seven Peaks. It's
Hmm.
a company here in Bangkok.
Hmm.
And other than that, it was mostly contractor positions, and that's mostly because I'm from Ukraine, and basically the IT field there is it's built in such way that everyone is a contractor. So it's very rarely that you meet someone who is actually in the IT field and an employee. Like 95% of the people that are from Ukraine usually work as contractors.
Hmm.
And that's mostly because, for tax reasons, I guess, for the companies, it's easier for them like that. And yeah, that's why I'm more used to that kind of format. But if it's a great company, I would consider switching to becoming the employee. So.
Hmm. I get it. Like in Ukraine, as such, like does it offer like less? Do we have to pay less taxes when we are in contracting or something?
Yeah. It's so in Ukraine, it's you pay 5% flat tax on any amount. I think it's if it has to be like below like a hundred something $1,000 per year.
Hmm.
But yeah, you pay 5% tax and you're good. And companies also like pay minimal tax. But if you're an employee, it's 35%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the difference is really huge, basically.
So I kind of read this one Medium post by, I think so, he was a Russian guy,
Hmm.
and I think so he was in Flutter development, and
Hmm.
he started off with I think so there's a difference in how Russian people, developers, and I think so the area around those Russia, Ukraine, and how developers work there. And he was talking about going into fields like contracting itself. I think that's how most people out there are developing in contract. When we look at Asian countries like India itself,
Hmm.
that's where I'm based. So people are mostly looking at employees and like having a stable employee job, and
Hmm.
they want to get into contract, right? So if you want to suggest anyone out there who wants to learn that I want to get out of my job and get into contracting and understand that I want more freedom and rather not care about money or stability as such. So how should one do it?
Um. Well, I mean, it's a lot about, like as you said, about sort of being an entrepreneur. Like when you're an employee, basically you're not thinking about getting a new contracts or looking for contracts. You're just working at a job, and until you either leave yourself or you're fired. But for a contractor, it's basically also you have to be doing kind of marketing yourself,
Hmm.
building your brand, I guess. So I'm still in the process of this, like of actually building my brand. I try to post a lot on LinkedIn. I have quite a few posts on my website as well. And yeah, I mean, your GitHub helps a lot. I know a lot of guys who are contractors, and because they're sort of recognized by developers, in their industry as being experts, because they have like either contributed to something in open source, or they have built something that others like reference, for example, like a project with good architecture and stuff. And so that really helps because companies really, they look at that. And since when you're a contractor, you are expected to be really kind of you're expected to be an expert, so you can't, there isn't, I think, such a thing as a junior contractor.
Mhm,
You're supposed to be like really really proficient in your stuff.
mhm.
So yeah, and building connections, of course, like with recruiters, you know, trying to communicate with them constantly, so that also helps.
So I get like key takeaways from here that you actually need to be really good at what you do and
Hmm.
have more than just experience in development. Like you should understand how marketing works,
Yeah.
and you should be a really good communicator because you'll be communicating with the team remotely, maybe.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You also like communication, I think, is like super important when you're a contractor, because most of the time you're going to be talking like with people that make decisions. You're going to be talking with someone, maybe also maybe a tech lead or director of engineering or someone, and they're supposed to know what value you're bringing. So you have to be really sort of clear about what you're doing, constantly communicating, and I think one of the most important things.
Mhm. So, like, if you were to, have you ever actually thought about going from a contractor to maybe starting your own app somewhere down the line and hiring other people to develop that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have these kind of ideas constantly, but I never really get to implementing them. I actually, how I got into Android development is I I built my kind of like an app for myself.
Mhm,
It was like for personal finance, and yeah, and so I just kind of built it for myself first, and I learned Android, and then I published it. And I've noticed that people actually liked it. I started getting reviews,
mhm.
people liking it, and then I kind of, I think I don't remember. Added, I think I added like in-app purchases, and but it from that point I kind of got busy with other stuff, and but it earned me like a couple $100. So yeah, but ever since I was mostly doing contracting and not really focusing on building apps.
I think it's a knack for every app developer because they started off by actually thinking that I might make an app someday and maybe it will get bigger. And it's,
Yeah.
I think most app developers start because of this particular dream. And I think
Hmm.
same goes for game developers as well because they want to be releasing games in the public and actually making them. So
Hmm.
that's a thing.
You're
And
you're you're uh, you're an Android developer as well, right?
yes, I am an Android developer as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, how did you start?
For me, actually, first of all, when I was in college, because I don't have actually that much experience as compared to you. I just have around
Hmm.
1.5 or 2 years of experience. So
Okay.
when I started out in college, I started to learn web development, and I
Hmm.
practically hated JavaScript. So I just switched to something else. I wanted to see
Uh,
something much cooler.
hmm.
So I think game development caught my eye,
Hmm.
and I started to make some games and stuff. And then I got to know that I can even release games on Android. So I had like a Windows laptop and stuff. That's when I started to get into Java and stuff. And I was like, okay, Android seems really interesting, and it's much more interesting to me than web development. So that's how I got started in Android.
Hmm.
I played around with Flutter as such more,
Hmm.
and then I got into Android. And now I understand why people like Android more than Flutter. But yeah,
But why?
so
Why?
I don't know. I just feel that uh, I enjoy Android more than Flutter. Um,
Hmm.
I think that the difference itself is how Kotlin is as compared to
Hmm.
Dart. I'm not very
Hmm.
well versed in Dart, but
Hmm.
I like Kotlin, using Kotlin over Dart itself. So that's why I
Hmm.
enjoy Flutter. I've seen that
Yeah.
I have seen that you have used Flutter a lot yourself. What do you think about the difference between Flutter and Android itself?
I mean, I haven't just as you like you. I only had basically one serious contracting job on Flutter, and I worked for a company that does kind of a security. They do like security devices. So I wasn't really building that much with Flutter there. I was mostly working with Dart
Hmm.
because they have a Flutter application, but it does like really low level communication with the security devices.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I find it a little bit kind of cumbersome compared to, especially right now, Android has taken like big, has made big improvements in, in development, like with the, when Compose came out
Hmm.
and coroutines and stuff. And so, yeah, now I think, because like when Flutter just came out, it was really cool because they had these kind of widgets everywhere,
Hmm.
and everything is a widget. And so it was really sort of like really interesting to build components in a like a
Hmm.
composable way.
Hmm.
And now Android has Compose,
Hmm.
so I think it's better than what Flutter has.
Hmm.
But I mean, Flutter is still like the one of the biggest, multi-platform um, frameworks out there. So,
Hmm. Yeah, Flutter, React Native. A lot of people, I think so. Um, it the usage of different frameworks differ in demographics because I've actually talked to ex DOE of Rapido. If you've heard of Rapido, Rapido is basically Uber-like app in India.
hmm,
So he was talking to different people around. He has his own library, open source library. So he was talking to different developers, trying to actually get them to use the library as such. And he was looking at how different people are using different frameworks in different demographics. And I've seen that most of the Asia is using Android and native Kotlin more as compared to how maybe South America is using React Native more as compared to Android. So I think so as compared to Kotlin. So I think so. It's much more demographics and how a framework is pushed in a certain area and how it's easy to learn when someone is near you to actually teach
hmm,
you that particular
hmm,
thing. So
hmm,
that's what I think. Other than that, I really enjoy Jetpack Compose. Personally, I think a lot of companies in India are actually using XML for
hmm,
now, and this going to that range of Jetpack Compose and Kotlin multi-platform. But I think so. There's a high learning curve now in Android where you have to actually understand Java, Kotlin,
hmm,
XML, Jetpack Compose, KMP, and a lot of new things.
hmm.
What do you think about if somebody is actually starting out in Android nowadays? There's such a big learning curve out there. What do you think should be the basics that one should learn before we get into this field?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, yeah, as you said, right. There's quite a lot of stuff to learn right now in Android. I mean, it's hard to say. It really depends on the company that you're going to be joining. If you what you're aiming for, I think if you're aiming for a bigger company, then you definitely have to know XML. You have to. Well, I don't know about Java, but you better you. I mean, if you know Java, Kotlin is not that hard to learn. So Java would be helpful, but I don't think it would be necessary. So, but if you're aiming to kind of for smaller kind of companies, I think Jetpack Compose now is kind of sufficient. And if you need to learn XML later on, you can do that, no problem. But Jetpack Compose is, I think, a little bit harder to learn
Mhm.
than XML. And yeah, I mean, I think the most important things is learning compose, learning coroutines, at least the basics,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding MVVM. But it's really good right now because Android and Google have created, they've basically have a really good documentation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have kind of code labs that you can take. And with those code labs, you can basically learn anything. You can learn, Jetpack Compose and coroutines and stuff. And that's actually how I learned Compose, by doing code labs from Google.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it, depending on the company that you want to join, I think it's these kind of like bigger companies tend to have a bigger stack.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on what you want to do.
I agree. What do you think about? By the way, there's a I think so. Um, what do you think about learning on the job itself? Like, if somebody is maybe dedicating 1 hour a day, maybe, in their job time as well, just to learn, maybe read documentation, just to learn one thing, maybe just understanding. Today, I'll understand refined keyword. What does it do?
Hmm.
So, what do you think about learning on the job as compared to going back to home and then learning? So, what do you think?
Hmm. Um, so, I mean, if your company allows you to actually devote time to learning, then that's amazing. But what I usually do is I usually try to take on tasks that I know will force me to learn something. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like if a if our company needs to do something with Gradle that I haven't done before,
Mm-hmm.
I would usually volunteer to do this, even though I don't know how to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
in the process, you kind of learn. So it like the first time you're doing it, of course, is going to be slower. But yeah, I mean, eventually you get better at it. And so I try to kind of learn by doing, and I think that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. By the way, when you were the team lead of the company, I think Seven Peaks, right? So,
Technically, yeah.
like, have you did you interview someone by the time you were there?
Actually, in that company, no, because by the time I joined, I think they had like already around like up to about 20 Android developers. I don't remember for sure, but yeah, around that, something like that. But so I didn't really do any interviewing there, but I did quite a few actually in my current position as a team lead in Billease.
Okay.
So.
So, by the way, if I can ask, what do you look for in someone when as a tech lead? What exactly are you trying to see?
Hmm. I usually try to understand what problem we're trying to solve at the company. For example, at Belize, there's like a lot of legacy code, and a lot of developers were coming and going, each with their own ideas, and basically it resulted in a kind of scattered code base with different approaches. So it's important in that sense to hire someone who is not afraid of working with legacy code, and not afraid of refactoring, and like really getting messy, and not sort of being afraid of working without frameworks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on what the company needs. If for example, like in Billease, one of our tasks that we gave out during the interviews was to identify, like, it was a code piece that I built, and it had all kinds of sort of mistakes
Mm-hmm.
in it, and the candidate, they were supposed to identify those mistakes and fix them. So
Mhm.
basically, like refactor the code. And the second part was actually building a small application from scratch, just to understand how the person writes code and stuff. So to answer that question, it also depends what are the goals of the company. Where you're, if you, either you're applying for, or you're hiring for, because at different stages there's different needs.
Mhm.
Some companies, like startups, they care more about how much code you can write and efficiently.
Mhm.
But for the most part, it's one thing I know for sure, that even if the person is really really great with tech skills, if I see that he would be hard to work with, I would definitely not. I would definitely pass on that person. So they have to be someone like really easy to work with. And one important part of that is communication. Like,
Mhm.
you have to be able to explain your thought process during the interview, and why you're making certain decisions, why you're not making certain decisions, and you should be able to explain that.
Okay. Like if we were to say that if someone gets employed in as while you are a tech lead, right, and he's not exactly excellent in his field, right? He's not very well versed. Like you give him a task, he takes a while to understand it. Yeah, he does it, but it takes a while. So,
Hmm.
but he is a good person to work with. What? How would you judge this person? Would you hire him, or would be something other than that?
So, I mean, once again, this really depends on the company and its goals. For example, if you know you're hiring someone for the long run, right? Like, you're hiring someone. For example, you know that the company is going to be expanding its features. They're going to be growing its business.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think the most important thing is like the willingness of the person to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and their kind of, you know just their character in general. Like, what are they? How are they thinking? Like, what are their problem solving abilities and stuff like that? And then how fast are they kind of able to identify certain problems.
Mm-hmm.
But if, for example, at Belize, we had a requirement that the person that we're hiring has to know lots of stuff already, because we need them to start kind of coding from the first or second day.
Mm-hmm.
So there we were kind of looking for someone, like, even though that they would be a great match when we were in kind of a more stable phase, like, because we knew that we need this person to be really, hit the ground running. We were looking for them to be, to have those skills already, so we couldn't afford to teach them, basically.
Okay, I understand. Like, I'm gonna go a little on the tangent here,
Hmm.
and I usually ask about this particular question to every Android developer I possibly meet. I usually talk about AR feature as such,
Hmm.
because AR seems super interesting to me,
Hmm.
and it seems something very future-like because I think a lot of apps can use it, but they are not using it. What do you think about AR as such in Android apps? Will there be some kind of use case that would be super good, other than just games like Pokemon Go?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I really haven't worked with AR that much, but I think it's a really interesting technology. I mean, anything. like any really specialization that I think you can get in Android will be good for you. So if you kind of specialize in AR and like you're good in Android in general, I think that will make you really stand out from the crowd, because there are certain companies looking especially for that. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I really haven't had much of a chance to work with it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sort of more looking into integrating some AI feature
Mm-hmm.
in some of my sample apps right now.
Okay. So what kind of AI features are you looking?
I'm just in general kind of more interested now in expanding just from general Android into something more specialized. And
Mm-hmm.
so just because I was thinking about going more like into blockchain and stuff, but so I was deciding either blockchain or AI. So I'm still figuring out things, and I recently started learning on Kaggle about sort of machine learning. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely beneficial to also have some kind of deeper specialization in something, except for just being a good Android developer.
Yeah, I think it's again the difference between a generalist versus a specialist, and I think so a person should be both, because you have to be specialist in one particular field and a generalist to
Hmm.
be able to understand and grow as a person, I think.
Hmm. For
So
sure.
yeah, um like if you were to give any advice, one piece of advice to anyone out there, maybe developer, right? He's just into this Android development. He thinks this particular gate is very, very, huge. XML, Java, Kotlin, Jetpack Compose, and I want to become and improve as a developer. What would you give him? A one piece of advice?
You mean like someone who's trying to enter into the
Yes,
Android field?
yes.
I would say focus on Kotlin right now, because that opens you up also to KMP, which I think is gaining traction. So try to get really good, just in Kotlin, and also don't try to learn everything at once. Like I remember when I was just starting out, I was really overwhelmed with lots of stuff. I was like kind of trying to learn this and that, and I can imagine how hard it is right now, only for people starting out, because there's so much stuff to learn, and everything is moving so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say focus on one thing at a time. Like first, like really learn Kotlin, understand, get comfortable with it. Then try to add, go deeper into understanding the Android, like its life cycle. What is the proper architecture and why? Then try to understand like coroutines and asynchronous stuff. So my advice would be to take it slow, and it's better to understand something really well than not understand anything. Like learn everything but not know anything at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Like mostly it's about foundations, because I've seen that if you're really good at Kotlin, eventually you'll be able to grab everything else. But if your foundation isn't clear, do not understand how lifecycle work itself. Routines will
Hmm.
be very, very difficult to understand.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, foundations will be something very, very important if you want to start off.
Hmm.
That's the thing. I
Yeah, for
kind
sure.
I kind of want to go on a tangent here, just out of interest, and ask a very simple question, because I've seen this kind of post around Twitter on or LinkedIn as well. Like, what do you think about? manual injection versus dependency injection? Because I've seen people, you know, people somehow do not like dagger hilt as such,
Hmm.
and they're really into manual injection. What do you think about like a lot of, I think a lot of apps are using dagger hilt, dagger 2, and they're not doing manual injection as such. What do you think is the difference between the two, and what should be preferred?
What is a manual injection?
Like, I mean, like manually injecting.
You mean like without using a framework,
Yes,
like
yes,
doing a dependency injection yourself?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. You can try to sort of do injection yourself, like build dependency injection yourself. But I think that you're actually making yourself, life harder for yourself,
Mm-hmm,
because I understand that dependency injection, especially for beginners, it's really hard, and I've struggled with it as well a lot.
mm-hmm,
And but if you want to, but I think it's also super helpful once you understand it, like why is it important, and how it helps you build sort of modular code.
mm-hmm,
So actually, Android documentation has a really great example.
mm-hmm,
If you go into their articles on dependency injection, they actually teach you how to build your own dependency injection container.
mm-hmm,
And once you understand that, once you build that yourself, then hilt and dagger kind of makes sense. Like it's not so hard anymore. It's and not so complex.
mm-hmm,
So I think it's, once again, returning to that point on the foundations. If you don't understand something, my advice is really learn the basics of why, like what is this framework doing under the hood,
mm-hmm.
and once you understand that, then it's going to be so much easier.
Agree. I agree to that point. I actually started off learning dependency injection just from Android documentation itself. So it's super
Hmm.
interesting. And nowadays, I think people are just comparing Dagger, Dagger Hill, I think so, Coin as well.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there are different use cases. And I think everyone should actually understand how the basics and the foundations work of
Hmm.
how a dependency injection is running behind the scene, and
Hmm.
how these annotations are actually helping them. So
Hmm.
yeah. Other than that, I have a question around Ktor as such. Have you used Ktor as backend?
For backend,
Yes,
you mean like for communication with backend, or just like building your own backend?
building your own backend.
Actually, no, I haven't tried that. Have you tried that?
I actually was kind of trying to make my own app, so I was thinking if I can somehow make the whole stack with Kotlin website,
Hmm.
backend, and the app itself with Kotlin. So
Hmm.
I kind of watched some videos around Ktor and how people are making to-do lists around Ktor. It seemed
Hmm.
interesting, pretty different from how I think so JavaScript backend works. But I think so. It's kind of promising, but I think so. There's a a gatekeep for, I think so, IntelliJ as gatekeeping there. That if you have an IntelliJ Ultimate Edition, then only you can develop it, or maybe you have
Hmm.
to download some kind of kit or pre-made framework. Then you can use it. I haven't completely used it, but yeah, it seems super interesting that you can make your own backend with Ktor and make the whole website and app with just a single language. So
Hmm.
yeah, and that's why I just asked this, that if you have used Ktor before or not.
Hmm.
Um, have you tried website with Kotlin?
Um, uh, no, actually, you mean like Kotlin multi-platform for the web?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the WebAssembly one.
Um, actually, well, I think I tried some sample project, but I've recently been looking into Cobweb.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
that's also a framework right now
Yeah,
that I think it's kind of more kind of suitable for the web than what Kotlin multi-platform has.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I would actually like probably to rewrite my website at some point with Cobweb.
Yeah, I was kind of deciding to actually learn something like React and maybe make my own website. Then I came
Hmm.
across Cobweb as such, and I was thinking that it would be a super interesting approach to make my own landing page with Kotlin itself. It would
Hmm.
definitely look super nice on my resume. So yeah, that's why I just thought maybe Cobweb would be super interesting. I
Hmm.
think
Yeah, for sure.
Compose Web is I think it's kind of I talked to different Android developers who have actually tried it, and they think it's kind of janky with the kind of how Wasm is working with Compose Web. I think it's still too mature. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think Cobweb is super interesting, and how it kind of will make it kind of acts like React for Kotlin. So
Hmm. Hmm.
other than that, have you like I was about to ask, like, have you ever tried building an app and actually releasing it? And like, would you suggest someone who is working as a full time? Would you suggest someone to actually build your own app in your free time?
I would suggest, depending on what you're aiming for, if you're just building it for fun and if you're basically looking to, I don't know if you're just doing it as a hobby and just practicing your Android skills or whatever, then don't really give much thought to it. Just do what you like and just release it. But if you're looking to actually make some money from it and really kind of um, you know just take it seriously, then I would suggest it's just like with contracting. It's like coding is only a small part of that.
Mm,
A really big part of developing your own app that is successful is actually doing market research, talking to potential users, understanding what they need. I actually was thinking to build an app about affirmations
mm-hmm,
just because I thought it was like really simple and I could make some extra money while doing that. Um, and so my previous experience with releasing my app, my finance app, was like I really understood the importance of first, talking to potential users, whether like
mm-hmm,
your app is going like whether people even need your app, like, or maybe there are a million other apps like that, and you're just going to be 1,000,001. And so I think it's important before you actually jump into coding or doing something that's fun for us coders.
mm-hmm,
You really have to think whether it even makes sense to build this, um, because because you can waste a lot of time if you're building something nobody will need.
mm. Yeah, I think that the best approach towards this would be to be your own customer and
Hmm.
be your own customer avatar. So that's
Hmm.
the solve your own problem. And I think so that would be the best approach for someone who wants to build an app. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And other than that, I actually previously talked to an indie developer who has actually released around 15, 16 apps, and
Oh
he's
wow.
just full-time indie app developer.
Hmm.
And what he was particularly doing, he was releasing these small app like Android mirror app for Chromecast and stuff. So he was doing that, and very very small apps around very niche stuff. I think so, mostly
Hmm.
for Indian people because they have a very cultural sense of doing things. Like there are different festivals in India, and people are downloading different apps for different things. So
Hmm.
targeting these particular cultural aspects which are very local to your community, and solving your own problem would be, I think so, the key to developing a very good niche indie app and earning from that.
Hmm.
I think India is not a great market to charge people, because ads would be much better in India, but
Hmm.
America and I think so other European countries would be much better to have, I think so, long time membership and stuff, and not give ads, because people like they do not prefer ads over stuff. In India, ads is okay. So yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Is this guy so he's doing indie apps full time?
yes. Yeah.
And is he like making enough money off of it?
I asked him, was he in doing good or not? He was
Hmm.
like, I'm not doing exactly very good, because
Hmm.
India is not exactly the place where people pay for software, and
Hmm.
mostly things around piracy is a lot more healthier in India. That's I would say.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I think so. He's earning enough, a decent
Hmm.
salary an employer would earn,
Hmm.
and he has his freedom where he's an indie developer and he has 15 apps. So I think so. Most app developers are trying to actually reach there. But he and now he asked me actually the question that should I actually, because I have already released them, I don't actually need to work on them a lot. I work them like passively, and
Hmm.
should I go and join a full time job? I suggested, most app developers actually is trying to reach the level that you are actually on, because India development and freedom plus money is something that most app developers want. But yeah, he wanted to get into a job because he wanted to earn a little bit more money than just indie app development.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think so. It's much more that what kind of app you're releasing. If he was a good, like he has a good portfolio of 15 apps, and I think so it's targeting European market and people who actually have a very good amount of disposable income, then
Hmm.
definitely would be earning a lot of bucks. But for India, I don't think so exactly. That's
Hmm.
is the thing. But yeah,
Hmm.
he's earning for now. For now, he is earning himself something from India
Hmm.
development. Yeah.
Hmm. That's good. That's good.
On my side, these were all the questions. If you have any takeaway or any question, if you want to ask or anything you want to say, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually my first kind of experience like that, so it's pretty interesting. Um, I enjoyed the conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah, and um, really interested in seeing some more kind of people that on your podcasts and learning from them, because
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah, you there are quite a few interesting questions that you've been asking, and so I'm just curious how other people would answer that.
Hmm. Yeah, I try to ask these particular questions because they are first of all hard to answer. You cannot copy them from someone else, and
Hmm.
they tell me more about a person is thinking rather than what they have learned. So
Hmm.
that's why I asked them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you for actually coming on, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hitesh. Yeah, looking forward.
Yeah. Hey, you, what's up? I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, let me know what you guys think. Comments are open for you. Of course, like, share, subscribe. And other than that, thank you for listening to it. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.